Audition Technique. I get asked all the time about audition technique. It is one of the things that excites actors and scares actors. Well, I'll tell you number one. Number one, know how to act. Don't start auditioning until you feel confident about your acting, or your teacher or guided mentor is comfortable with your acting. Don't just forget about all of your acting techniques. The same techniques that you're going to be using in class, on set, are the ones you're going to be using to get the job, to make it look real and believable and effortless. You're still going to be needing to break down your scene and figure out who you are. I like to say, if shooting the job or doing the job is a painting, then the audition is a sketch. It's not a completely done performance, but it's a really good representation of what's going to happen when you're on set. So walk in, if it's an in-person or if you're on self-tape, start the audition as your character. I know this feels very controversial. People are always like, well, don't they want to get to know me? And I'm like, not unless they're looking for a date. They want to cast a role. That's what they want to do. So stay in character. Now afterwards, if they want to talk to you and maybe you've got an accent that you don't want to do anymore and you want to drop it, okay, if that's what you want to do. But otherwise, don't give them any reason to think that you're acting. Come in character. I've had so many directors tell me that they could tell if an actor was going to get a call back simply by the way that they walked into the room. Nobody wants to watch you transform into the character. They want to think that they've actually hired the person, that they found the person who can also happen to act. I know you want them to get to know you, but they will on set. Otherwise, and you remember, you've got reps, you've got agents or managers who are going to be pitching you for things. So if you went in and you read for something where you had to be a very unlikable person, and then they want to have you read for something where you're very likable, they will say, oh my gosh, they are so sweet. They just knew that if they came into the room so sweet, they were never going to be considered to be this really horrible, terrible person. And just to be clear, so there's no confusion, I don't want you to be rude or abusive or bad in any way, just as the character. Even characters that are terrible people have moments where they can behave, and you'll find so many examples of people who really went the extra mile for their character and booked the job. So again, walk in character, do your work. This is not an exercise in them wanting to know that you've got your lines memorized. It's not about memorization. I think you should be really familiar with your lines, so much so that they don't see you trying and struggling to remember them. But if that's all you're doing in the audition, I promise you, you're not going to get the part. You won't. They don't need to watch an actor try to remember what they're going to say next. They want to see somebody who comes in and elevates that material, where they say, that was my line, but it felt like they improvised it, but it's the line. They want to watch their material come to life and be believable, and not where we see the script rather than the character. Make sure that you, going along the lines of walking in as your character, you're dressing as your character, you're giving the same considerations that you do when you're doing a scene in class. If you're going to be playing a doctor, you're going to want to dress as a business professional. Doesn't mean you need to go out and rent scrubs, but you want to look like maybe a doctor on their off day. If you've got a self-tape audition, you've got a little more leeway to do things than you might in person. I was working with an actor and they had an audition where they were doing an autopsy. So we had them get a papaya out of frame, and she was able to cut into it, pull it open, dig some stuff out, all of this stuff below the frame, but it enabled her to be in a truthful place of behavior while she was acting. Can't bring in a knife to an in-person audition. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to have to find some business that you can create without bringing in props. You can use the props in a self-tape. I wouldn't bring anything into an in-person audition. You might be able to use your cell phone if the person's on the phone, or your purse if you've got that, a backpack, but otherwise don't bring in props. But in the privacy of your own home, you have permission to do whatever you want to help the audition be fantastic for you. I like to think of auditions as your opportunity to have the character. In this moment, they've said, what is it that you want to do with the character? And you get to say, this is what I want to do with the character. And I think where actors really rob themselves is that they spend a lot of time trying to not lose the job. They're trying to not lose a job that they don't have, and they play it far too safe and bland. They try to just make sure that they remember all of their lines. No, we love messy. We love truthful. Again, doesn't mean you don't do your work. If you study with me, I don't want you to show up to any audition being unprepared. That's so disrespectful to the casting director who took their time to bring you in, to the people who are going to be watching your tapes, or not if you didn't do any preparation. And I see that all the time. Now you've got a shot at what you want to do. Put in the work. And that is not memorization. That is doing your character work. That is doing your scene breakdown. And then you'll feel good about all of your auditions. You're not going to be booking them all. Not every role is for every actor, but you're gonna feel really confident about your auditions. I like to say, I want you to practice self-tapes all the time. You don't have to wait for an audition. Practice with friends. The more that you can be confident about it, because if you're only going out once every other week, say twice a month, you don't want that to be the only 2 times a month that you're dealing with a camera. Practice, practice, practice in-person auditions. If it's an audition technique class like we have at the studio, or again, practicing on your own, practicing with some friends, getting a community together, so that when you do get the audition, you don't feel like you're starting from zero. You don't feel like you've got to dust off the rust and start all over again. It's not a make or break. It's like, oh, it's another audition. I did 4 this week already. So please, what am I gonna say? Can you read my mind? Like and comment and subscribe, please, please, please. It means a lot. And when you are ready to do what you came here for, join us online or in person. See you next week. Look at me. Moving on?
Yeah.
Ba, ba, ba. We didn't have to be, but yeah, okay. Yes, we are rolling now.
Okay.
I think this is, now I'm gonna have like the baby bird on the blooper. All right, and if I didn't give it to you the first time, definitely give it to you that time.